Sunday, December 2. Restored Friendship. Paul and Barnabas worked together in witnessing for Jesus, but they had a disagreement over whether they could trust one as fearful as John Mark. Let's read about that in Acts chapter 15, verses 36 to 39. Then, after some days, Paul said to Barnabas, "Let us now go back and visit our brethren in every city where we have preached the word of the Lord, and see how they are doing." Now Barnabas was determined to take with them John called Mark, but Paul insisted that they should not take with them the one who had departed from them in Pamphylia and had not gone with them to the work. Then the contention became so sharp that they parted from one another, and so Barnabas took Mark and sailed to Cyprus. The potential dangers of preaching the gospel had caused John Mark at one point to desert Paul and Barnabas and return home, as we read in Acts 13:13. Now when Paul and his party set sail from Paphos, they came to Perga in Pamphylia, and John, departing from them, returned to Jerusalem. Ellen White writes in the Acts of the Apostles, page 170, "This desertion caused Paul to judge Mark unfavourably and even severely for a time. Barnabas, on the other hand, was inclined to excuse him because of his inexperience. He felt anxious that Mark should not abandon the ministry, for he saw in him qualifications that would fit him to be a useful worker for Christ." End of quote. Although God used all these men, the issues between them needed resolution. The apostle who preached grace needed to extend grace to a young preacher who had disappointed him. The apostle of forgiveness needed to forgive. John Mark grew in the affirming mentorship of Barnabas, as we already read in Acts 15:39, and eventually Paul's heart was apparently touched by the changes. Question: how do Paul's letters to Timothy and the church at Colossae reveal his renewed relationship with John Mark and a new confidence in this young preacher? Colossians 4, verses 10 and 11. "Aristarchus, my fellow prisoner, greets you, with Mark, the cousin of Barnabas, about whom you received instructions. If he comes to you, welcome him, and Jesus, who is called Justus. These are my only fellow workers for the kingdom of God, who are of the circumcision. They have proved to be a comfort to me." And 2 Timothy 4, verse 11. "Only Luke is with me. Get Mark and bring him with you, for he is useful to me for ministry." Although details of Paul's reconciliation with John Mark may be sketchy, the biblical record is clear. John Mark became one of the apostles' trusted companions. Paul highly recommended John Mark as a fellow worker to the church at Colossae. At the end of Paul's life, he strongly encouraged Timothy to bring John Mark with him to Rome because he was useful to me for ministry. We read that in 2 Timothy 4, verse 11. Paul's ministry was enriched by the young preacher whom he obviously had forgiven. The barrier between them had been broken down, and they were able to work together in the cause of the gospel. Whatever the issues between them, and however justified Paul might have believed himself to be in regard to his earlier attitude toward John Mark, it was all behind him now. And so to finish the day, how can we learn to forgive those who have hurt or disappointed us? At the same time, why does forgiveness not always include a complete restoration of a previous relationship? Why does it not always need to?